Good morning. Welcome to the House Education Finance Committee. I'll call this meeting to order. Our first order of business, as always, is the minutes. Representative Purcell, have you had a chance to look at the minutes for February 8th?
Yes, Madam Chair, I move the minutes.
Thank you. Representative Purcell moves approval of the minutes for February 8th, 2023. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The minutes for February 8th, 2023 are adopted. With that, our next, I forgot, we also have the joint hearing minutes for our joint hearing with children and families on February 8th. Representative Pryor, have you had a chance to look at those minutes?
I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So moved. Representative Pryor moves the approval of the minutes for the February 8th, 2023 joint hearing. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. The minutes, the motion prevails in the minutes for the February 8th, 2023 joint hearing with children and families are adopted. Our next item on the agenda is House File 1082 with Representative Sencer-Mura. Go ahead and go get settled, and welcome to your own committee. And I want to thank you for the treats that you brought today. It was not necessary. We've been trying, some of us have been trying to get rid of that tradition for a while. Every time it happens, I feel like I'm back on the soccer field having to bring oranges at halftime. So, but thank you very much anyway. I've squirreled one away for later. I appreciate it. With that, Representative Sencer-Mura, would you like to move House File 1082 before the committee with the intention to lay over the bill for possible inclusion in an education finance committee?
Yes, Madam Chair, so moved.
Thank you. Representative Sencer-Mura brings House File 1082 before us, and I don't see there's any amendments, so go ahead and start your bill.
Thank you, and yes, please, members of the committee and staff, partake in the treats. I do want to mention I did offer them to my folks on the other side of the aisle, but they are all, I guess, healthier than us on the DFL, so they declined. So I'm excited to be here with you all today to present House File 1082. So House File 1082 is in relation to career and technical education revenue, known as CTE for short. This bill is important because we know that students need to leave our K-12 system with skills and real-world experiences and a plan for what they want to do after high school. I know that when I was a student in high school, I often felt pressure to go to a four-year college. I felt like the message that I was getting was that a four-year college was the only path and that a four-year college was for everyone. I was really heartened. I was talking to a family friend who was graduating last year who actually went to Como Park High School, and we have a testifier here today, a teacher from Como Park High School, and he shared with me he had a very solid plan for what he was going to do after high school. His plan was to move out. His plan was to work at an auto mechanic shop, and he was able to create that plan based on his experience in automotive class at Como Park through the CTE program. So these are programs that prepare our students for the real world. They give our students real-world experiences, and there's a variety of CTE programs, and I'm excited to share more about them with you today. So under current law, a school district's career and technical funding equals 35% of the district's approved expenditures on career and technical programming. School districts generate this funding primarily through a local levy. All school districts with approved CTE programs are eligible for this revenue. This bill, House File 1082, proposes to increase career and technical funding from 35% to 50% of eligible expenditures. The increase is provided entirely through state aid rather than property taxes. So to give some background, CTE programs are a sequence of courses that integrate core academic knowledge with technical and occupational knowledge and skills to provide students a pathway to post-secondary educations or careers. CTE teaches transferable workplace skills in applied learning contexts, provide opportunities to expand high-demand career options, and give students the technology and skills needed for success in adult life in the 21st century. CTE programs in Minnesota include students engaged in agriculture, health sciences, business and marketing, family and consumer sciences, construction, manufacturing, transportation, work-based learning, youth apprenticeships, communication technology, law enforcement, cosmetology, and a variety of other careers. So throughout the 1980s, vocational aid was at a level where funding covered 50% of the program costs. But slowly over time, funding declined to where most districts received a very minimal amount. In 2014, the legislature revised the statute and added an aid component to create CTE revenue at the current 35% reimbursement rate. We are looking to increase this because we know that the high school graduation rate for Minnesota students who are CTE concentrators, meaning they're enrolled in 2 or more CTE courses, is 92%. That is higher than our statewide average. Nearly 2/3 of Minnesota high school CTE concentrators enroll in post-secondary for further education and career development. In Minnesota, 86% of post-secondary students completing a CTE program were placed in employment by the end of the second quarter following the program completion. Nearly 2/3 of jobs will require some post-secondary training and/or education beyond high school. Another point that I just want to make about CTE, and this relates to some discussions that we've been having in education policy and we'll have in education finance. You know, CTE brings in a diversity of teachers, and it brings in often teachers that we're struggling to get into the classroom. It brings in people who have real world lived experience, as you're going to hear today from some of our great educators, and often they are able to connect and be a mirror or reflection for students in a way that our current teaching workforce is not. So, you know, I see this bill as supporting the CTE programs, you know, as doing 2 really key things, you know, making sure that we are preparing our students for the skills that they're going to need to be successful once they leave high school, and it also brings them into contacts with adults that can act as mentors and ensures that these programs can be robust. You know, I think as one of our testifiers will speak to today, you know, right now without this funding, we have welding shops, machine shops in schools that are just vacant because we don't have the teachers and we don't have the funding, and so that's why this increase is really necessary. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, for considering this bill.
Thank you so much, Representative Sencer-Mura. I think before we go to your testifiers, I'm going to have Mr. Strom walk through the runs. They look a little bit different than some of the runs we usually see. So, Mr. Strom.
Madam Chair, members, the printout in your packet is essentially a what-if style run. It says, using the 22 level of spending, what would the result of this be if the change were done immediately for the current year? As you know, we're budgeting for the next few years, but just so that folks can see the effect, this is for illustrative purposes. The columns on the left shows the pupil units. Career and technical revenue is an equalized aid and levy. And in that next column, ANTC per pupil is the tax base per pupil. The higher that tax base per pupil, the lower the rate the district needs to fund its programming. You can see then the FY22 spending was about $101 million. The witnesses will tell you a little about this, but only certain expenditures count for CTE purposes. There's a small amount for equipment, and then there's portions of the salary that are reimbursed under the 35% formula. When you apply 35% to that $101 million, you get the base revenue amount of about $35 million. And you can see nearly all of that's falling to the levy currently. There's just a small amount of equalization aid because of the relatively low equalizing factor for the program under current law. Under House File 1082, the representative's bill would increase the funding by about $15 million. You can see the funding goes up to $50.7 million. The levy stays at the same place because the equalizing factor is increased so that the increase comes entirely in state aid. And then the last 3 columns show on a per pupil basis how that increase in revenue is to each of the districts. The average at the top you can see is $16 per pupil, but CTE programs are more heavily concentrated in some areas than others. And then you can see the amounts by district, the change in levy, which will vary. Some districts will have an increase because of their values, others will have a decrease, and the amount of new aid that each district will get.
Thank you, Mr. Strom. Are there any quick questions on the what-if runs? Seeing none, we'll go to your testifiers. We have Troy Haugen here from the Minnesota Association of Career and Technical Educators. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Good morning, Chair Youakim, members. My name is Troy Haugen. I am the current president of the Minnesota Association of Career and Technical Administrators. I serve as on the board of Minnesota Association of Career and Technical Education. and I also serve as the Director of Current College Readiness at Lakes Country Service Cooperative. Thank you for your time this morning. Thank you to Representative Sencer-Mura for your leadership on this bill, and happy CTE month. February is CTE month. Secondary CTE programs run the gamut of many different things, from culinary to public safety to cosmetology to construction to medical careers to agriculture to early childhood to manufacturing to creative design to business to human services to automotive to far, far beyond those things. In short, nearly everything you depended on this morning is in some way, shape, or form originated in a secondary CTE program. Ultimately, not only do our CTE programs fill the need of our workforce and keep our economy strong, there are programs that keep many of our secondary students in school. These programs are programs that many of our students find relevance and belonging. Many CTE students leave high school with industry-recognized credentials and certifications and actual work-based learning experiences. CTE programs have many brilliant teachers that have strong industry connections and oftentimes bring industry experience and relevance to our students. CTE programs fulfill the needs of some of our most brilliant students in our schools, sometimes students who struggle to find success and relevance in other places. Secondary CTE programs, by their technical nature, also have a pure safety aspect that most other similar classes don't have, and they also have equipment and materials that are far beyond what are necessary in a traditional core class. That also makes them more expensive. Increasing CTE revenue reimbursement helps districts recover these costs and continue to incentivize and grow and expand those absolutely necessary programs for the vitality of Minnesota's workforce and the economic future. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mike Harvey, Superintendent. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
Yes, I'm Mike Harvey, Superintendent of Zambrota-Mazeppa Schools, and Madam Chair and members of the committee. I just want to speak on behalf of CTE in our school districts. My background is a little bit different. I started out in manufacturing. I was a tool and die worker and worked in manufacturing as a machinist for several years before coming into education. I taught in schools and became a high school principal. I was a high school principal, and I've been a superintendent. And next year, I am actually going back to the classroom to be a CTE teacher. And one of the reasons drawing me to that is the need that I see. And we need to promote these programs in our schools. Our kids are crying for these programs. Our kids need these programs. We're at a point in our school where we have a construction house project, for instance. We build a home every year. So kids are engaged in foundation work, plumbing, electrical, framing, roofing, the whole aspect of building a house. And those kids end up coming back into our communities. And when we talk about CTE revenue and levy authority, we're talking about our local economies. These are the kids that they're coming back and starting businesses in our communities. And it doesn't matter if you're in a metro or a rural district. These are the kids that are coming back and creating jobs. We had a partnership with Goodhue and Representative Altendorf's district, and we had to cut our partnership because we have so many kids in Zambrota-Mazeppa that want to be in the program. I've been speaking with the superintendent in Goodhue where we had to break apart the program. They would love to add a program. And this sort of funding would allow that program to be added. Manufacturing, we're expanding. We're going into, it's not just, we're not talking about just laborers. We're talking about the skilled workers that our state and our communities are going to need. Engineers, we are expanding our programs in CNC work. So kids are working in SolidWorks, Mastercam. They're learning industry skills that are relevant, that they could come out of and enter the workforce and join apprenticeships, join companies today, employers today are willing to take our kids if we give them the basic skills and that foundation at the high school level. They are willing to work with those kids to further their education. And they're crying for these engineers, crying for these students. Our kids are asking for more of this programming as well. There are programs. So I'm going back to the classroom next year. It is what I've been seeing is I have a district that their shop sits empty. In an era where kids are crying for these programs, we don't have enough people. We don't have enough resources for these kids to take these courses. So that's where I'm at, and I really feel that and believe that our local economies are, this money that you would spend and that what you would approve is instrumental to our state economy. We have to have our workers skilled, and the data will show it. 2/3 of our workforce need to have these skills. So I appreciate your time, appreciate the committee's work, and thank you for listening to us.
Thank you, Superintendent Harvey, and for your passion for CTE, and for going back into the classroom. That'll be quite a switch, but also
It'll be
I
fun.
know how nice it is to feel grounded by students. So, next up, we have Josiah Munoz and then Tom Apple. I'm sorry, Joshua Munoz and Tom Apple. I clearly am having trouble reading this morning. Mr. Munoz, do you want to start out first, introduce yourself for the record, and proceed?
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, committee members. My name is Joshua Munoz, born and raised here in St. Paul, Minnesota. Marine Corps veteran. It was an honor to serve our country, and now it's an honor to serve our community and our young people. Como Park High School. I've been teaching there. This is my halfway through my third year teaching at Como Park. And since teaching at Como Park, which is a very diverse school, probably the most diverse school here in this state, probably the closest to agriculture program from this capital. The numbers for my courses have been increasing every single year since starting during 2020, which is a very good and bad thing because I'm only a one teacher program. I hope for this program to grow. I would love to see more teachers come in and support these programs because it's clear that these students, especially here in the cities, are looking for these opportunities. Where this increase in levy from 15%, this will bring more teachers into the cities, more teachers to teach these programs. It'll help with the supplies. I could start by talking about the courses that I teach, construction and design. You can imagine all the supplies and new equipment that needs to be taken care of in these shop classes. Small engines, of course, introduction to agriculture, horticulture, natural resources. Teach many preps, a variety of classes to support all the students at Como Park. I want to be here today speaking with you all. If it wasn't for Mailse's support and their grants, I wouldn't be a teacher if it wasn't for them. I graduated from the University of Minnesota's graduate program, received my licensure from there. Again, Mailse and their support, I couldn't say enough about their program and their support. I don't know any more to say except agriculture. There's so much opportunities here in our state of Minnesota for these young people, especially for young people that are coming from places like Latin America that have that background in agriculture. My job is for them to see how that's a strength and they could come here in Minnesota and find good job opportunities. With that, thank you. Thank you for everyone's time.
Thank you, Joshua Munoz. Next up, we have Tom Apple. Please state your name for the record and proceed.
My name is Tom Apple. I currently serve as the Executive Director for the Minnesota Association of Agricultural Educators. Madam Chair and committee members, I appreciate the opportunity to appear before you this morning to go ahead and provide some testimony into this bill. The previous testifiers, I think, have done, I will echo everything the previous testifiers have said. I will cut a few of those comments out of my notes, knowing that I did have them here. I have served in this position for 7 years, and prior to that, I taught agricultural education for 37 years. The association I represents 416 agriculture educators at the high school, post-secondary, farm business management, and all three of our teacher education institutions in the state of Minnesota. Agriculture, food, and natural resources, we have 226 programs, 331 teachers, and approximately 40,000 students enrolled. So when you start to look at the impact that this would make, those are the direct numbers for the impact that it would have. Historically, we've already been provided the history of that, but just to kind of recap, so we're all on the same page here. Prior to 1983, the state funded all of career and technical education at a 50%, known then at that time as foundation aid. Some of you may recall or have researched what happened to education and what happened to the state budget in the early 80s. If you're not, that was on the opposite end of the spectrum as to where we are today in terms of state funding. There were program shifts, there was reduction in aid to schools. It was a very, very nasty time. I started teaching in 1979 and moved to Mountain Lake in 1981, so unfortunately I had to experience that. You realize now that we're at 35%. Oftentimes we kind of wonder what should that magic number be to support. There have been previous bills introduced that have talked about 60%, and it's always a question, how much do we have available? And I'm confident the committee will find out in the coming months. But the 50% is the number that I certainly think is reasonable to go ahead and take us back to a 50% reimbursement, so to speak, to the 1980s. That seems more than reasonable, especially that well over half of that has still been shifted to the local levy. So the one item I would call your attention to and ask you to do a 5-minute research project on, Governor Olson, the Flanagan administration sent a final report on July 2nd of 2020. It was the Minnesota Business Vitality Council. Minnesota Business Vitality Council. I would encourage you to spend 5 or 10 minutes on that. I will give you the quick summary. They looked at specifically where are we at in the state of Minnesota with career and technical education. It included virtually all of the agencies in the state of Minnesota, MDE, MDA, DEED, higher education, the Iron Range Resource and Rehabilitation, DOLLI, DNR, and MnDOT. They came to a conclusion after lots of meetings and testimony and research, and they came to the conclusion that it would be very, very critical, as you've already heard from previous testifiers, to increase and improve career and technical education. It's really an economic issue for the state, and it really is a issue to provide opportunities for our students. The barriers that they identified were the workforce needs. We continue to see a shortage of workers in all the CT areas. Not enough teachers. I believe we still have like 12 openings this year that we were not able to fill, specifically in agriculture. Access of equality to CTE programs for all students, curriculum, equipment, and accountability. This bill would go ahead and fund and help address a number of those barriers. So I encourage you to go ahead and consider that. The last thing that I'll sort of mention here, and then hopefully we can have some questions. I was fortunate enough to live in the same community for 42 years. I was fortunate enough to go ahead and teach hundreds of students. I walk the streets and I still live in the community, so when I need to go ahead and have some electrical wiring done, I'll put a pitch in, I'll call for Dirksen Electric. Former student, I can still remember Phil when he was a freshman in high school class and we did our electricity unit. Now he runs a major company with a staff of 3 to 4 electricians. We could go with a similar story for all the welding, the fabrication, our heavy equipment operators for our counties. We could go on as you've already listed the extreme importance of that. So it's very fulfilling for me personally to see that. It's absolutely incredible. And I say this because that is happening in pretty much every community we live in. Folks that go through our programs, they will go to our communities. They will be the backbone that we need to drive economic development.
Thank you, Mr. Apple. Do you want to just wrap up real quick so we can go to questions?
That would be all other than we've got a massive expansion in agriculture programs. We need to forward and consider this bill strongly. We'll wrap it up for questions.
Thank you so much. I just want to give the members an opportunity to ask some questions. We have Representative Pryor.
Thank you, Chair Youakim. So, just to start with the clarifying part of this, if I can, Representative Sencer-Mura, we're increasing from the 35 to the 50%, which is historically where it was way back. That's actually a long time ago, I know, as these things go. Though, you know, some of us can identify with those days. And that the money can be used for both teachers and for equipment. Am I correct in that, this aid?
Representative Sencer-Mura.
Yeah, thank you, Representative Pryor. Yes, as I'm understanding it, I don't know if one of my testifiers or if Mr. Strom could clarify that, but I believe so.
Madam Chair, I can clarify that, and I'm sure if I may. And then Mr. Strom can clarify, it would be for salaries, travel expenses, supplies, and limited equipment. And I'm not up to speed as to what those are, but that would be the expenses.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Apple. Mr. Haugen? I'm seeing phone a friends come up, so, Mr. Haugen.
Madam Chair, Representative Pryor, yeah, the equipment component is very minimal.
Okay.
The bill very explicitly lays out what the approved expenditures are. But equipment is typically not, because there are other funding sources and pieces for equipment typically.
Okay. And excellent clarification. And I think I should get some kind of prize for the number of people that have to answer my questions. And we'll see if somebody else can.
It's called a
beat that.
croissant.
Because I know from other people that have been in my office and talked to me about this area, that we do have actually huge equipment needs too, that we've been falling apart on by, and we know EMTs, what that equipment is. I mean, you know, they have a new, so in so many areas, and so I guess that we were also looking for, if we're really gonna put a focus on this area, it's going to be more than one funding source that we have to look at in the state to really bring us up to where we need to be in the future for, I know, all of our technical and career fields. And I have another question, if I may.
Yes, just to follow up, and then we'll
And
move
that,
to
I'm pretty
Representative
sure
Apple.
only one person has to answer this. So the other, you know, we're also concerned, like, you know, for the accountability of how we're using this money. I know that, again, I've heard from different stakeholder groups, sometimes women in the trades and construction trades are, it's a real struggle. So what kind of efforts are there also to make sure that, you know, some people that are going, which have not been traditional jobs, young men going into childcare, what kind of attention is being paid to that, and how do we know that we're not just perpetuating certain stereotypes, I guess?
I'm seeing Mr. Haugen also nodding, so Mr. Haugen?
Chair Youakim, Representative Pryor, members, great question. And so there's a multitude of buckets that we can talk out of here, and I think so. The CTE revenue component is clearly a state bucket, but a large intersection is our Perkins requirements with the federal requirements, and one of our accountability measures within Perkins is non-traditional employment, and non-traditional employment oftentimes is I can't remember the numbers have changed since the most recent iteration of Perkins in 2019, but non-traditional employment includes the number of non-traditional employment with women in the trades and men in early childhood. So we are measured on non-traditional employment. And what we've seen is start to see a good increase across each consortia, where we are starting to meet our benchmarks on those and if we don't, we actually have to put a plan in place for each consortia. So we are actually starting to see an increase in our programming and succeeding meeting our targets. So now can I speak to, that's at a statewide level. I can tell you my Perkins Consortia, we've not had an issue with our non-traditional measures for probably 5 or 6 years. I can't tell you necessarily about every other Perkins Consortia. I can tell you mine is fine. We're meeting ours. So that is our measure, but again, it's not necessarily attached to this particular state measure.
Thank you. Representative Altendorf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for bringing this bill forward, Representative. I truly appreciate this bill. Just coming from rural Minnesota, but also having a business background, and this is how I would like to run government, is we have to look for win-win situations, right? Okay, so we represent the state of Minnesota, and we have a dire need in trades. I am talking to people all the time. They are not filling jobs. This is affecting our manufacturing. This is affecting our employment. This is a huge, huge concern for Minnesota. And so anywhere where we can create this win-win situation where we're literally funneling money to kids, because look at it, so many students, you take a ninth grader, they're not even aware of all the possibilities of what they can do. But the more we can get these presented to them, the more that we can show them the options, it presents these life skills for them to move forward. And my son took the construction class that Mr. Harvey spoke of, and he didn't end up in construction, but that gave him life skills that he will have for the rest of his life. And so I just ask every member to support anything that is something, because not everyone's going to be that four-year student. And anywhere where we can expose them to trades, to life skills, our goal should be making children productive in life, that they have a good job and that they are productive. And I guess the one thing I would like to mention, just for Representative Pryor, your question about the girls and the boys, maybe there's a discrepancy. However, I can just speak from my school. This class is open to everyone. It's open to everyone. And if more boys are applying to the construction class, I do think as a legislative body, we just have to be okay with that. Please, let's not limit this dire need where we need to be exposing children to the trades, because we're going to be putting some limits on equity or it's identity politics. We don't have to go there. Everyone is allowed to register. Everyone is allowed to participate. Please don't damage a really good program that the state of Minnesota needs because we're going to play identity politics with our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Altendorf. I don't like to put words into members' mouths, and I don't believe that was Representative Pryor's question, and there was federal funding tied to requirements. So I think Mr. Superintendent Harvey had a response. I saw you kind of nod your head, trying to read body language.
Mr. Apple.
Mr. Apple, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I did have a quick response for that somewhat interesting discussion, and I always debate how much I should say here because historically, like 60 years ago, agricultural education was created for the boys because they needed to learn how to farm. That is definitely not where we're at today. Absolutely not. I hesitate to even bring that point up. I will add two quick things here. I'm always kind of hooked on numbers and statistics. When I started teaching in 1981, we had one young lady in an agricultural class. And I can pass it forward. She now is also the executive director of Des Moines Valley Health and Human Services, another former student. So, but to talk about a little bit about the gender, just so everybody understands and can rest assured as to what's happening, at least in agriculture education, and I believe across the career and technical education. Our school, I did work for 30-some years with an industrial arts instructor. Her name was Donna, okay? Statistically speaking, of our 331 agriculture education teachers we have right now, 61% are female. And those folks, as I'm testifying this afternoon on a Meal C bill, looking at funding for Meal C grants, and it's going to tie to professional development, where massive numbers in the last 5 years of the female teachers, new teachers coming in, have taken construction trades courses, mechanics courses, so they are capable and feel real comfortable in the classroom. But I thought that would be an interesting statistic, that 61% of our 331 high school instructors in this state are female. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Apple. We definitely need all hands on deck for our workforce. Representative Perez-Vega, I'm going to give the final question, and then we're going to go to closing comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have a question. I just want to thank you all on speaking forth here about career and tech, furthering the career and technical education, and to Mr. Munoz for your story on and the advocacy that you are to those students. I'm a daughter of a dental tech. My father was drafted to Vietnam right, at 18 years old, and came back with the opportunity to say, do I want to go to 4 years or 8 years and become a dentist? Or I love my job as a dental tech, and did that 2-year program, which provided a roof over my family's head. And he always stated the importance of talking to young men and young women who are struggling on what their decisions were going to be during high school. And he said what saved his life was those technical programs that they offered back in the 60s in high school education, because it was about excelling. It was about excelling and opening doors, whether you want to continue to grow your education in that field of work or adapt that to the next step in your education. And so thank you so much for sharing your work, your worth, and the beauty and excellence of these technical programs. Gracias.
Thank you, Representative. With that, Representative Sencer-Mura, final comments.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to end with two things, hopefully one that appeals to the head, the brain of everyone on this committee, and then one that appeals to the heart. So starting, with the kind of headier piece and the economic piece, speaking to the comments that you made, Representative Altendorf, about this being a win-win situation, I very much agree with you. I also sit on the workforce committee in this body, and I really see that every underinvestment we make in education comes back to us as a workforce issue, right? And so everything that we are not willing to fund, that we are not willing to tackle, that we are not willing to deal with here, will come back to us with it, whether it's workforce shortage, whether it's people not being prepared for the workforce. And so I think, this is a win-win. I think the other thing I want to talk about is just the heart piece of it is, and I'm sure everyone on this committee has seen, and we've heard some stories here today, like there is nothing more magical than watching a young person find their passion. And we know that for some young people that will be, in a calculus class. It definitely wasn't for me, but I'm sure it is for some people. That might be in the traditional academic course, but for a lot of our young people, it's not. And so these programs give those young people opportunities to shine. And I think to just speak to kind of, how the piece about, who is in these classes, I guess what I would say is I also think that these programs can open opportunities for young people to see themselves in professions, in careers that they might not see themselves for a variety of reasons. I think we heard amazing testimony from Mr. Munoz about the agriculture program, in St. Paul, and a lot of urban kids don't see themselves necessarily in those programs, but he's creating opportunities there. I think we think about the workforce shortage that we have in our care system, whether it's care for elders, whether it's care for young people, and I really believe that we need everyone, regardless of gender, to be able to see themselves in those professions, to be able to get opportunities to see themselves in those professions. So that's what these CTU programs are doing. I think the conversation today, really thank the testifiers who really spoke to this need, and I hope everyone can vote favorably on this bill today. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Sencer-Mura. I think you brought forward a bill that we could all almost agree on, which is awesome. So thank you for your work on this. Thank you to the testifiers. With that, I will renew the motion to lay over House File 795, House File, sorry, I'm on the wrong page, 1082 for possible inclusion in the education finance bill. And with that, I will turn the gavel over to Representative Pryor. Madam Chair, to save time, are you okay with us having the testifiers come up to the table right away?
Yes, that sounds wonderful. And do they know who they are, or should I call
Yes,
the
they
names?
do know who they are.
Michelle Bellin. All right, well, welcome to your committee, Chair Youakim. We have House File 877 is the next, I'm sorry, it's House File 795, excuse me. House File 795. Chair Youakim, would you like to move House File 795 before the committee with the intention to lay the bill over for possible inclusion in the education finance bill?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would.
And I believe you have a DE amendment that we should talk about before that and adopt.
Yes, Madam Chair, I have an amendment labeled DE1 that should be in folks' packets. The bill as introduced was taken from last year, and we didn't catch in time that there had been additions that we wanted to make. And instead of overburdening the revisers for another jacket, you have a DE1 amendment in front of you to get the bill in the proper shape.
All right. Then, let's see. Any questions on the DE amendments? All right. And then Chair Youakim, would you like then to move the DE amendment for adoption?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move the DE amendment for adoption.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, the DE amendment is adopted. All right. So now, please, well, why don't we start again by identifying yourself again for the official record and proceed with your testimony. Thank you, Chair Youakim.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Representative Cheryl Youakim, and thank you, members, for having House File 725 before us today. Some of you have seen this in previous years. Currently, school districts can access extended time revenue programs to fund programming for students who are enrolled in school and participating in academic programming that's either before or after school, in an extended week or summer school program, or other additional programs that have been authorized. However, the ability to access this revenue stream does not apply to school districts who provide the educational service and care and treatment programs, with one exception. That exception is Wilmer School District. They are able to tap into this revenue stream for educational services provided at Prairie Lakes Education Center in Wilmer. No other school district has access to extended time revenue for services provided in care and treatment programs. This means the students with mental health needs and in care and treatment cannot benefit from the broad curriculum opportunities available to their peers. Opportunities such as credit recovery and enhanced programming. This gap in service first actually came to my attention in 2018 when I was the Education Policy Chair and toured the Hennepin County Homeschool. Intermediate District 287 facilitates the educational programming for students placed in this facility, and they were not able to access this revenue stream to extend learning beyond their regular school day or school year, exacerbating the opportunity gaps these students are facing. A student seeking treatment who has been placed in one of our residential facilities should not face falling even further behind academically. House File 795 fixes this inequity and allows all school districts to qualify for extended time revenue for every pupil placed in a residential facility or care and treatment facility licensed by the Department of Services or the Department of Corrections. You will hear from our testifiers that students in these programs could particularly benefit from the educational opportunities and the broad curriculum currently available to their peers. Many of these students also need extra time and attention to address learning loss. I have two testifiers here today that can paint an even better picture of why this bill is needed.
Thank you, Chair Youakim. Next up, we will have on a remote, Michelle Balland. And if you can hear us, please identify yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Yeah, so thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative for the opportunity to testify today. I am testifying remotely because I am currently at a conference in Mankato where we are reviewing a lot of these alternative education options for students. So I oversee an ALC facility that is in Matamidi, but then I also work with Eris Care and Treatment Clinic in Woodbury, and they do not have residential care. Another program I work with is Willows, and they are a residential care treatment facility. So I'm testifying to support this extended time funding for all students in the residential treatment facilities or juvenile justice systems. And primarily because these students in these systems are often, they're our underserved population, and they're traveling through these systems due to significant trauma experienced in their short lives. The traumatic experiences make success in school nearly impossible without the support and understanding of trained educators. Herein lies that problem. Students in these programs are not only there during the school year, and their mind isn't open to learning just during the school hours. They are there potentially year-round, and they are obviously there for more than just the 6 hours of school. So the window of opportunity to educate the students is narrow, and with these students in particular, we need to capitalize on any opportunity we have to make necessary connections and build relationships in order for learning to occur. So by limiting this time frame in the school year, we're missing that opportunity to serve these students. Some state data shows that a high school dropout will cost the community $280,000 over the course of their life. And we know that these students are at high risk for dropping out. So if we can invest the time and the money right now to service them when they are able and when they are ready and in a variety of ways, not only are we investing in our future, but we're also saving money in our future. I'm open to questions at the time that it's appropriate, and I thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Next testifier is Sufei Wang Makan.
Thank you.
And please identify yourself again and proceed with your testimony.
Chair Youakim and members of the Education Finance Committee. My name is Sufei Wang Makan, and I'm the Senior Vice President for Volunteers of America of Minnesota. VOA is a nonprofit health and human services agency working to support chronically underserved Minnesotans lead stable, healthy lives. I'd like to share our experience today, though, at our 4 children's mental health services programs, as well as our charter alternative high school in Northeast Minneapolis. At our residential treatment services, we treat youth with histories of significant trauma, serious mental health illnesses, and thus already are facing hurdles to stability at a really crucial point in their lives. The mental health crisis facing our communities, but particularly our young people, is really well documented at this point. We live this crisis every day at VOA. We and other programs like ours are faced with long wait lists, and the kids we can help have lived through the isolation of the pandemic and come to us with even more acute diagnoses and behavioral issues. We believe that kids who have mental illnesses do get better with treatment and support. These kids often have issues stacked up against their path to well-being, though. One of these is educational achievement. With crucial funding of extended school time, children prioritize both their mental health and their education and are not forced to choose. The risk of falling even further behind educationally while seeking out mental health services becomes an additional stress factor in their young lives and is at odds with our goal of helping them to their road to living out their full potential. At our charter alternative high school, we help young people who are determined to achieve credit recovery to earn their high school diploma through the Minneapolis Public Schools before they age out at 21. Their life experience has informed them the importance of achieving their educational goal. We want the same for our youth in our residential programs. Our team at the programs had many stories to share about how educational support from our amazing ISD public school partners have helped children in mental health treatment. But I'm going to share just Kate's story today. Kate's a 17-year-old whose plan to graduate from high school with their peers was derailed by issues at home and their own personal mental health crisis. When they came to us, the team recognized that without access to summer school and intense teacher support, Kate would not be able to graduate on time and on schedule. At a time when it felt like everything else in their life had come undone, this one goal for normalcy was important to her. With some amazing support and the tenacity that Kate displayed, they were able to achieve some huge victories for themselves, successfully transitioning back to their home life, graduating on time with their class, and making plans to potentially apply to some higher education. Kate's example illustrates how access to the resource of extended school time can make a very meaningful difference in the lives of our children and students when they are accessing mental health treatment. Kate it allowed Kate to not just meet her educational goals, but also to start building towards a really stable, successful future in community. Thanks for the opportunity to support House File 795 in person and share the importance educational opportunities offer to the futures of children in need of intensive mental health support. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We don't have any public testifiers, so we'll turn to member discussion and questions to either our bill author or our testifiers today. Okay. Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Madam Chair Youakim, thanks for carrying this. I think it sounds like a great idea. So just wanted to add that.
All right, Representative Kresha.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, members. Just checking, if I oppose the bill, none of my bills will get heard, right? So I think this is great.
Representative Kresha, you know me better than that.
No, I think this is a great bill, and it extends into possible summer programs as well. So thank you for bringing it forward.
Thank you. All right. Well, with that, the chair, or the acting chair, I'm sorry, Chair Youakim. Final
Members, thank you, Madam Chair. Members, thank you for the discussion today, and thank you for our testifiers for sharing their thoughts and stories of students. Students that are placed in a residential facility or care and treatment facility licensed by the Department of Human Services or the Department of Corrections face many obstacles. Obstacles in front of their education should not be one of them. This bill can help take one of those obstacles away. Having access to educational opportunities can help them receive an education, a credit, maybe work towards graduation that will help them on their road to recovery and well into the future. Members, I ask for your support for this bill.
All right. All right. With that, the chair lays over House File 795 as amended for possible inclusion in an education finance bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us shuffle around today. With that, we have House File 781 before us. No, my fault. We have House File 105 before us. And Representative Olson, welcome to the Education Committee. Representative Kresha, would you like to move House File 108 before us?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So moved.
Thank you. We have 108 before us and 105. I should really look at the slips instead of the script. So there we go. Representative Olson, welcome. Why don't you go ahead and start your testimony?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This would be really quick. Basically, what we're doing is we're talking about extending some time for students who want to attend vocational and STEM programs after schools or potentially on weekends or potentially in the summertime. So it's a great bill. I have a testifier, the superintendent from Fairmont Area Schools, who should be online. He is, and I would love to turn it over to him if that is okay, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Olson. With that, please state your name for the record and proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Andy Trado. As Representative Olson said, I have the privilege of serving as superintendent of Fairmont Area Schools. It's an honor to provide testimony on behalf of our schools, our students, our communities, and most importantly, the future of our state. I've been a teacher and administrator for 20 years, and I've had the honor of observing, great progress in education during my tenure. In 2014, Minnesota enacted legislation to ensure all schools developed a focus on the future of our state's workforce. And the world's best workforce legislation was enacted in part to solidify Minnesota's presence as a competitive, viable workforce market for our future generations. According to the Minnesota Department of Education, for Minnesota to be competitive, we must have students who are career and college ready and students who are poised to lead the state's workforce moving forward. While we're striving to ensure all students are ready to be contributors to society, it's no secret, as others have mentioned, that we're facing a shortage of skilled workers and workers in all sectors. In 2018, it was predicted that by the year 2022, Minnesota was expected to face a shortage of over 239,000 workers. And we are here, and the predicted challenges are now reality for all of us. According to the National Career Readiness Indicator in conjunction with Minnesota's ACT data, our students across the state are demonstrating the abilities to leave our schools ready to enter a career field. The reality is that about 55% of our graduates get lost in a career field right out of high school, meaning they go to work without a vision for what they want their future to be. With the combination of our students demonstrating the ability to contribute and the gap in our skilled labor force, this legislation will only have a positive impact on our students and workforce. All areas of trades work are facing the challenge of recruiting skilled workers. Locally, we have collaborated with electricians, plumbers, welders, automotive professionals, HVAC technicians, farmers, and restaurant owners to analyze how we can serve each other to meet these demands. This proposal for increased funding for career and technical education opportunities outside the regular school day will allow the ability to offer both supportive and enriching experiences for our learners who otherwise may be unable to access these educational opportunities. Fairmont area schools and others have invested millions of dollars in our CTE programming, including for us a recent $7 million voter-approved CTE expansion. And at this point, we are limited in our scope of use due to funding parameters and unsustainable fiscal model for our courses that we offer outside the regular school hours. I believe each and every student of ours and across the state possesses talents and gifts that can be developed and enhanced through these types of courses. Our own students have seen the value of experiencing learning outside their regularly scheduled classes. Each has demonstrated skills that prove they are talented in many areas of their schooling. With full schedules and course requirements, though, the classes we have offered in the summer months and on weekends have allowed for these learners to expand their skill sets beyond the traditional boundaries of the school day. Additionally, students with varying academic abilities have been able to acquire skills they otherwise would not have been able to. Personally, I have seen students at the top of their class working on projects they are passionate about, and have also observed students with special needs demonstrated proper welding techniques to groups of beginning welders in our metal shop. We have historically supplemented these courses out of our general fund and through private donations. Recently, and in alignment with one of the Department of Education's identified priority areas, we have used ESSER 3 Finance Code 161 funds to support learning outside the regular school day. To provide a sustainable model for the use of these types of programs and to meet the needs of our students and workforce, a more sustainable approach is needed, and this bill will be a great starting point in accomplishing this. By offering courses beyond the school day, students in our area have developed, or area of our state have garnered more voice and choice over what and when they're able to learn and develop these skills, some of whom have been able to enter the workforce debt-free, earning more than $40,000 a year and immediately contributing to a career field and our local economy. Through your support, more and more students will have these opportunities to advance their preparation in career-related fields. With an accelerating need for skilled labor, we need to ensure students have the opportunity to accelerate the acquisition of these skills that will help them be successful in their futures. To close, I want to share a historical perspective. Exactly 5 years ago, I was in this exact scenario testifying in behalf of this consideration. 5 years ago, when our current workforce challenges were predicted. One of the students that testified with me in 2018 is currently employed as a welding HVAC instructor in our school district, a student who took advantage of our summer and weekend CTE academies. He started his career as a highline welder, went back to school to receive his teaching degree, and is currently instructing 50 students in the first year of our HVAC program, as well as leading college in the school's welding opportunities. We currently have 20 students and adults in our current Saturday Welding Academy, and local businesses are already seeking a presence to build connections with these individuals. The evidence of impact for us has been clear, and this policy will only benefit the future of our great state. Your consideration of action is greatly appreciated by our students, teachers, and business owners in our communities. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Members, are there any questions? Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Olson, for bringing this forward. And Superintendent Trato, if you're still listening, I believe I've met him. I think he was an administrator in Fairmont before becoming superintendent, maybe. So great guy. And this is an issue I actually worked on a few years ago with the former superintendent, who is actually my constituent. And I think this is very, very necessary. I carried the bill in a couple ways. One, this way that used extended time revenue. But then as I learned more about extended time revenue and how it's really meant to impact struggling students, and when visiting that program, which is an awesome program, by the way, Superintendent, there were so many different students there. I met an honor student who was accessing the program as well. So another time I actually carried it with, created a vocational enrichment fund to pay for this, just so it didn't take from extended time revenue. So I'm just wondering if you've looked at the impact, Representative Olson, on extended time revenue, or if you think this will be okay running it through this way. So your thoughts?
Representative Olson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the question, Representative Bennett. So this is one of those issues where we requested the fiscal note with the committee. We don't have that fiscal note right now, so we can't tell you exactly how expensive this will be in particular. But one thing I can tell you for a fact is that the opportunities that organizations like Fairmont Schools can provide to students, to me, that doesn't really matter the idea of how we get it funded, as long as we do get it funded. Where in fact, I used to be a 7th grade history teacher for many years, and I spent that time telling students, you don't have to go to college, but in today's world, you must do something else after high school. Whether that's a real estate license, or if you're becoming a welder, you're becoming an automotive mechanic, something outside of that. When I went to school, I was taught that you were, you had to go to college. That was the conversation. Nearly every single teacher told me throughout my education time was that I had to go to college to be able to make something of myself. And then I became a teacher, and I realized that there are people who are plumbers and electricians and auto mechanics who are making considerably larger sums of money every single year. And that really was never told to me as an option from my teachers. And so, we haven't had the opportunity to take a look at how this funding source would deprive lower income individuals of that. I don't think that anyone who, even if you are a high honor student like I was myself, I don't think that I should have been prevented from going to a welding class on a Saturday just because I was very good at math. I don't think that would be fair to any human being. And so I'm open to all sorts of suggestions. I believe this is being held over for possible inclusion, so we can make those adjustments if necessary. No matter what, this needs to get done in some way, shape, or form. I truly don't care where the funding source comes, as long as my schools and the vocational schools that we have are providing that funding.
Representative Bennett, follow up.
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Olson. I just wanted to kind of bring that out, because I agree with you, this needs to be funded. And with extended time revenue, if it is funded through that way, it would not turn away honor students at all. And as a matter of fact, I think this does help struggling students. As when I was in Fairmont and learned about the situation, many struggling students have to take their extra, their optional time, I'm forgetting the term for that, whatever time, anyway, take an extra class and say they failed the previous year. So they fill up that optional time and can't take that welding or construction course that really hooks them into school and keeps them there. And so allowing them to get their coursework done during the school week and then come on Saturdays for what they really love, I do believe it really helps struggling students. So I commend you for bringing this forward. Whatever way it's funded, it needs to be funded. It's time. We need to be more flexible with our schools, allowing them to offer all these ideas. I mean, I love these creative ideas, and Fairmont, you're going the right direction, so thank you for this, and I totally support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Bennett, and you're right, it is our job in Ed Finance to look at how it's funded, and I appreciate your concerns. I share some of the same ones, but extended time revenue is used for struggling students, and maybe there's a different way we can figure out how to fund this, and I look forward to working with you and Representative Olson on it as well. So Representative Bakeberg.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Olson. Representative Bennett brought up a great point about opportunities for students. In a kid's schedule, there's only so many periods in the day. So, and I see the superintendent nodding on the screen there. I must admit, I'm a little bit biased, maybe against Fairmont, because they kind of took it to us in football this year, but that's a whole nother thing. But yes, having some opportunities for kids to really explore their passion and develop their passion. So if they're retaking a math class that they failed for whatever reason, having this opportunity is a fantastic idea, so.
Thank you, Representative Bennett, Bakeberg. Any other comments or questions? Representative Bennett.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I just have to make one comment. I am wondering if Representative Bakeberg and Superintendent Trato are like secret brothers or something, because I'm looking at their faces and they look like they could be brothers, so I just had to bring that up, sorry.
Representative Bigberg.
Superintendent Trato looks a lot younger than me. My wife mentioned that I looked grayer on TV the other day, or on a picture, so she was making fun of me. So Superintendent, keep doing what you're doing, because I'm going in the wrong direction.
Representative Bigberg, I feel you. So Representative Olson, final comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you to the committee for listening to this, this bill here today, hearing it. I truly believe this is one of those things that we can do to work together to address our shortage of technical careers and putting an emphasis on our STEM programs here in the state of Minnesota, all incredibly vital areas that need to be advanced in our state. So I thank you for hearing this bill here today.
Thank you, Representative. With that, the chair lays over House File 105 for possible inclusion in the Education Finance Bill. Members, on Tuesday, we have a treat for you. We are going to be having a joint hearing with the Higher Education Committee at our normal time in this room. And we are going to be discussing this issue with CTE and Pathways a lot more with Rep. Chair Pulaski and their committee. With the help of staff, they've put together a really informational meeting, so I'm really excited about that. And we will be posting the rest of the schedule for the rest of the week soon. And with that, we are adjourned.